Cool. Let's kick off with that then. As I say, hopefully Laura might join us if she gets a sofa deposited in her house anytime soon. Teresa, I'm trying to work out, why are you portrait? What's going on?
Because when I put it sideways, it cuts off, and I can't put it any higher.
Cool, it works. I just feel like you're FaceTiming with your iPhone.
If it's that, then it's on the iPad.
Oh, iPad. Okay, cool.
See, if I put it like that, it just cuts off completely.
Okay.
That's why.
Works either way.
Let me see if I can get something else to put it higher.
Okay, awesome. Honestly, it doesn't matter either way. We can see and hear perfectly. She's gone. Okay, so I probably have like a good hour. I'm going to try and be good about that because my girlfriend is getting very close to murdering me with some of the times I'm getting home from work. I love this stuff. I could honestly talk to you guys for like 4 hours about this, but let's try and see what we can achieve in an hour. And then if it goes over a little bit, that's fine. Let me know if anyone has to go early. I'm kind of looking at you here, Miranda, given it's gone 2:00 and you're full of cold. Maybe if we do you as one of the earliest calls, and if you're feeling totally rubbish, don't worry about jumping off later. That could work.
Yep.
But yeah, has everyone got questions, or do we have some people who just wanted to kind of sit in and try and pick things up?
I'm just sitting in.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I think there were some things that came up on Instagram, but I can't remember at the moment.
Cool. Have a think. Like, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But I would love to try and give as much value to you as well as everyone else. So even if it's not like a super planned out question, if there's like something right now which you feel like is a bit of a pain point, I'd love to try and address it. But no pressure either way.
No, okay.
Cool. So yeah, Teresa, I was just saying we'd probably have like around an hour. Have you got questions lined up?
I'm not sure you want the question. It's the same old story.
Cool, that's fine.
Yeah,
we'll cover it. Okay, shall we establish who wants to go first? Is anyone fussed by the order? Miranda, as it's the latest for you, do you want to maybe go first?
Yeah, I can go first. My big one was about audience definition. Really, that's
I like this one. Okay, yeah.
So I know that's really open-ended in general, but that's sort of where I'm at. So
perfect. So just before I dive in, you're looking to define an audience that you want moving forward. You're looking to learn more about your current audience. Where's your head at?
Yeah, from what I can tell, most of the engagement and like active likes and comments I get are from other people that dabble in calligraphy, which is great. And we have good interactions, and that's certainly something that has built up since making sure that my captions end in questions to encourage that sort of thing and replying back to people. That's certainly helped a lot. But I'm also like keenly aware that these are people that would not necessarily buy from me because they can essentially do what I do. So why would they buy what I make? So I'm more wanting to sort of, I guess, figure out, number one, who should I be targeting?
Yep.
That is more likely to buy any products that I make going forward.
Yep. No, I got it. So there's 2 stages to this, and the first stage is you want to figure out exactly what you just said. You want to figure out who you're actually targeting and why, and then comes the audience definition. So I would kind of mentally split them, right? And let's dig into the first one. What is your aim right now? Like, if it is to simply become well known for calligraphy, Ian Barnard, for example, does a lot of lettering. Most of his audience are letterers, and that hasn't constrained him. So that's not inherently a bad thing. He's got a vast audience of letterers. It's a booming market, and he's been able to do a career through that, and he can help teach those other letterers, sell products to them, get sponsorships, and do all the client stuff and other things around that. So that's not necessarily a broken model, but it could be that you want to target people that aren't letterers and are more customers and don't care about doing the lettering themselves. Does one in particular stand out to you?
Yeah, definitely looking to, because I'm looking to effectively produce possibly digital products as well, which would obviously be a slightly different market because that would be more like for designers that wanting that aesthetic. But physical products on the whole are going to be people that are just looking for art that they can afford to have in their house.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily not calligraphers, but on the whole probably wouldn't be.
Okay. And is that where your gut leads you to? You want to sell art to people to have in their home?
Yeah, I'm at the minute, should have organised myself better, but I'm at the minute getting together a bunch of cards to do a in-person market, hopefully in the next month.
Awesome.
So this will be effectively the first lot of physical items that I have for sale like that. But I've got sort of, ideas of where I want to go further down the track, and it's a little bit more abstract, so it falls almost more into the art category than it does into the calligraphy category. It's like using calligraphy techniques, but the end result is not necessarily something you can read.
Okay, so it's just kind of artistic lines and swooshes, and it ends up with a beautiful outcome that sort of resembles lettering, but it's not a message. It wouldn't be 100% of what I do, and I am intrigued by like walking that line between something that looks like scribble at first glance and then you realise that you can read it. Yeah.
But it's not like immediately there are the words right there and that's all of the art.
Amazing. Okay. Just quickly, welcome, Ari. How are you? Oh, can you hear us? We just let Ari join the call. No, maybe not. Well, anyway, we're hold on. Tanya, you're muted. Let me just message super quick. I want to make sure everyone can hear. Cool. Just sent a message. Okay, that all sounds great, and like by the sound of it, that's what you're passionate about. I think you need to think about commercial viability to an extent. Mm-hmm. I hate this this tension, right, between art and business, but you have to take it in. Did you listen to the Honest Designers podcast about selling physical products? Because we touched on this, particularly how standalone art is probably the hardest thing to sell.
Yeah.
What's easier when you start making it applicable to products, whether that's a t-shirt line or iPhone cases or whatever. Often people extend their art to these different mediums because when it's
definitely
for the wall, it's very tough.
Definitely totally on board with doing that. I have played with having Redbubble store in the past, so that is definitely something that I would push it through and have it on t-shirts and not just necessarily have it stand up on its own merit. But it's also something that like there are quite a handful of accounts, mostly seem to be Russian, strangely enough, where this sort of art, this sort of abstract calligraphy, semi-graffiti type mashup is being done. So I know that it's other people have got a following for a very similar thing. So it's not completely uncharted territory either.
Awesome. Okay, that's totally fine. I just wanted to flag that first of all. If it's simply something for someone to stick on their wall, you may find it very, very tough. I'm not saying it's impossible, but unless you really, really broke out, it might be hard to carve out a complete kind of career from that. So I definitely would look at kind of physical product options within that space. I think as well. Hey, can you hear us by the way now? Amazing. Okay. Are you in a cafe or something?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I'm loving this. This is a global call. So that really, I think, I don't want to gloss over that. Like, obviously I'll touch on it now, but I would go away and have a real world think about commercial viability. I wouldn't just leap feet first into it, kind of assuming it will work. I would really, really think about the commercial viability of it.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, defining the audience is the fun part. So I think the commercial viability is the tough part. I love the audience definition part. This is something we did when we started Design Cuts. It's something I started taking very seriously in the last 8 years. And what you want to do, and this might sound kind of cheesy, but literally like go into brainstorm mode, go like by a whiteboard or somewhere where you can just kind of sketch. And we literally drew a little silhouette of a person and we gave them a name and we started defining everything about them that was someone who would be a good fit for what we wanted to do, but also down to like weird stuff that you wouldn't expect, like their character. And this is audience definition on steroids, right? So normally what most people do, they're like, well, I'm kind of looking to sell to like men between the ages of 18 and 45. And that's crap. That doesn't help anyone. The more specific you go as when you use your business model, the more it's going to help you. And the beauty is you will end up attracting people outside of this very narrow model. But by focusing on a very specific character, you will be more effective in reaching the people you want to reach, and you will naturally attract the people on the periphery. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, because if you narrow it down to effectively a person's name and you know everything about them, when you post on things like Instagram, you're making it almost more like a direct message to that non-existent person.
Exactly. You always have them in your mind. So when you're trying to, like, instead of trying to target everyone or this ephemeral thing, this vague concept of an audience, you're writing and you're marketing, you're creating content for this fictional person. And by doing that, you start to funnily attract people who are very similar to that person. And it's incredibly effective. So it's the same concept that, I didn't know if you know this, but Stephen King, the world famous author, he writes all his stuff for his wife, right? He doesn't write it for anyone else. He says when he tries to think about a big wide audience, it freaks him out and he can't do it. So everything he writes is for his wife. And he will literally be like, what's that? Sorry? You feel sorry for his wife.
Sorry for his wife.
I know, right? Because he writes some freaky shit. But Stephen's there and he's literally like, would my wife find this funny? Would this like cheer my wife up? Would this scare my wife? Like all this kind of stuff. And if she wouldn't find something funny, he wouldn't put it in. He wouldn't be trying to appeal to the humor of Joe Bloggs down the road who he doesn't know. So he's got a very, very specific audience in mind. And as I say, that's the same thing that we did with Design Cuz, where we thought about hard demographics and soft demographics. So the hard demographics are stuff like age, gender, what they might earn, all that kind of stuff. The soft demographics are the stuff like their character. What are their hobbies? What are they into? What are they like as a personality? What are they like emotionally? All of these kind of softer things. And
how do you work out stuff like that? How do you target when you're coming up with this imaginary persona? How do you nail down things like hobbies?
Okay, so how we did it, I remember kind of leading on this, and it's just because I've always been a designer. I've run, a blog that dealt with a big audience of designers. I've always worked with designers, so I felt like I really knew designers. And a lot of you guys here are designers and creatives, so feel free to correct me on some of this if my stereotypes are way out. But it was even like stupid stuff like loves coffee, like literally like the real stereotypes. But a lot of it was that they tended to be very empathetic, kind people, often had like good family values. That was all the kind of soft stuff. I'm getting background noise quite badly off of someone. Do we know who that is? Has someone got a pet or something?
It might be my dogs. Let me look.
Okay. So I'm not used to multitasking with this many people on the call. So the point is you go very, very deep on it. And we had this idea of a designer in mind. And it was stuff like that they were kind and empathetic. And you know how caring the design community tend to be? Like they really look out for each other and they support each other and they bring each other up. All of that went into this character. And I think we gave him some ridiculous name like Timmy or something, right? And we like wrote it above his head and literally gave him a little haircut and everything. And it will naturally, as you learn about your audience and you get into this thing, you can adapt this profile, but it's a starting point, right? It's rather
so like having this sort of like idea, I guess as far as I've got, it's sort of like this idea that wanting to target people that probably have reasonable amount of discretionary income, because that's the sort of people to buy art. But I'm not looking to target any sort of particularly highbrow market. I want to effectively be good quality but affordable art. So it's
Yep.
targeting people that effectively don't see themselves or what they're doing as pretentious because it's affordable. They're like nice stuff up to a certain point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it would be something for a wider chat to like really dig into the specifics of your audience profile. But I would recommend going and doing that and come up with as many as possible. I'll try and dig out. I had an old list which we literally filled out when we did this, like all the hard metrics.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have like a resource that you?
Yeah, I'll try and send it over if I can find it. But it should be a fun exercise, right? Because this stuff is stressful. It's stressful when you try and think about too many things and targeting too many people. But to give you an example, if you were targeting Brad, the sales executive, who was super like ruthless, had psychopathic tendencies, was all about hitting KPIs and metrics and that kind of thing, and lived life fast and did cocaine at the weekends and like all this kind of stuff, that's a completely different audience profile from, for example, we have a lot of digital scrapbookers in the audience at Design Cuts. I don't know if any of you guys are digital scrapbooking. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
I mean, I
know what you mean, but don't do it.
Amy, it's the equivalent of real life scrapbooking where you like glue stuff down and build these scrapbooks. You do it digitally. So you'll buy these packs where it's basically like almost a big collage mess of all these different elements, and you'll kind of combine it and be like, oh, my nephew was just born, and stick a photo of him in the middle and combine it with like all these different graphics and floral elements and build up a little digital page. Okay.
What, do they like print it or just save it?
Both. So
Right.
it is a huge kind of random niche in the design world. We weren't fully aware of this when we launched. We just discovered it, and we now got a ton of these people. And I know that demographic very well. Quite often they tend to be retired, for example. And this is something where they have disposable income, they don't work, and they are very family orientated, and they love sitting at home and creating this stuff as a big creative outlet for them. That character profile is completely different from Brad the sales guy, or some of you guys who are younger and like getting businesses off the ground and have a whole different set of concerns. And when you realize how fundamentally different all of those characters are, it starts to shed light on why it's so important to target the right one, because you can't target all three. And if you try to, it dilutes your message.
So which do you target?
Well, that's it. You have to take the time and not rush it, but you have to draw out this imaginary person and really, really think about the person you want to target.
But what about the people you're not targeting? Do they not feel, if it's not, so to the retired people,
Yep.
the things, well, I suppose they're not on Instagram for one, but if they were looking at things that, you know, a designer might find interesting,
Yep.
and they're just going to think, oh, I'm not bothered with this anymore, and follow.
Yeah. So the idea is, as with any niche, someone stops by your website or your page. Let's say 100 people have stopped by. You would much rather have 2 who are like, oh my God, this speaks to me so directly. It's like they're talking my language. It's like they know me. It's like my best friend's talking to me. You'd rather elicit that 2 out of 100 than have 100 who are completely apathetic and you're not talking to anyone, and they're bombarded by another 100 people just like you. And how do they choose? And as I say, ironically, I know that sounds scary, but I promise it works. Ironically, by starting with that focused point, like Design Cuts, we have people from all over the world. We did this, but it got us off the ground by putting in the time and having that very, very kind of close-knit community at the start with the people exactly who we're trying to targeting. But now 5 years on, I know all the pockets of different demographics within that, but it all started from focusing. Because if we just started and kind of spoke to anyone, our audience is anyone who wants to buy our stuff, right? If we just spoke like that, it wouldn't have worked. But the fact we were speaking these people's language and they're like, oh yes, I'm a designer. Like everything you're saying resonates very deeply with me. That's where you get the traction.
So then are you pushing away the other customers while doing that?
Potentially you're pushing away some of the wrong ones. Potentially you're not connecting. Well, you wouldn't have connected with them anyway. So it's kind of yes and no. As I say, you end up attracting a lot of those people anyway because they just happen to like what you're selling. But the point is, you go so deep in the connection with the people you really want, and they tend to be the people that are repeat buyers. They tend to be the people that are outspoken and engaged and loyal and so on. And like case in point, what I'm doing here, it's been a busy summer, but I'm about to ramp up the whole thing of what I'm doing with the tribe. And you better believe I'm not just going to kind of do a generic shout out like anyone who wants to be part of it. I'm going to be pretty focused with the people I want in here for the same reason.
Do you find you have to actually like the profile you've made?
Yes.
Because I had one small business and it was a perfect business for me, and I started doing it and I did the profiling and everything, and I just couldn't relate, even though I knew those were the people that were buying the product.
Yeah, that
couldn't relate to them, and I ended up dropping it because the whole thing maybe just I hated it.
I think you've just answered your own question.
You dropped well, just for her to think about.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example.
She's answered mine as well.
Yeah, there are definitely businesses that do very well and just happen to be pretty different. Like the founders are quite different from their customers, but there is a much higher percentage where you like your customers. And I think it's a tremendous asset to like your customers, to relate to them, to be able to have things in common. I think that's a really
I think it's interesting the comment that you made about like the Stephen King writes for his wife, because probably the person that in my immediate life that pops out as being effectively an ideal customer would be my best friend, because she buys a lot of art and she loves going to markets and meeting the people and buys the artwork, one because it's cheap, but also because she's already met that artist. She knows who they are.
So that is
already invested in the story.
That's unbelievably powerful, and I'm happy to talk about this if everyone wants to for the whole thing. If there's other questions, we might have to jump over in just a sec. But Miranda, I'm happy to message about this in private as well. Use her. If she's potentially your idol profile, then talk to her, interview her, ask her about this stuff in terms of why, like really drill down, because she's your best friend. She should open up and get her to be as open as possible. Really get inside her psyche. She might not even think about it herself until she starts being forced to and talk about this. Why is she buying this art? Your profile could be, women of a certain age and a certain amount of disposable income, and generally these kinds of hobbies. But the fundamental reason why they're buying art is because, I don't know, they're really rushed with their career, so they don't have time to go shopping and they want a convenient supply of art. Or it could be, I don't know, they've just moved house and they're making the house look nice, or endless reasons. You want to get in behind the why she's buying the art and why she's buying the art that she's buying at the price point she's buying. And when you have those conversations, all the ideas start coming out. You could even sit and do this exercise with her, where you're coming up with Debbie, the imaginary person, and adding all these hobbies and going, no, that feels right, and no, that isn't right. Maybe you make assumptions and she's like, actually, no, that's not really me at all, or the reasons why I'm buying. She would be an invaluable resource for this exercise.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's sort of obvious in hindsight, but it didn't even like click in my head until just mulling over the story that you told about Stephen King. And I was like, actually, it's someone that could probably work.
I thoroughly believe in this, and I'm never going to say stuff on these sessions that is like something I read in a blog article and never executed on. Like, I've done this multiple times. It was a huge exercise. I think we spent like 2 days with the whiteboard doing this at the early point of Design Cuts, because I was such a believer in it. And as I say, it was amazingly effective for us. So it's not only effective for attracting the audience, but it's so effective for inspiring you and guiding you with your marketing and content. Because suddenly, when you're creating a social media post or a product or copy writing for an email, you instantly start to slip into the tone because you know who you're writing for. There's nothing worse than like, I'm writing for everyone, or I'm doing this blog post for everyone. When you're thinking about like, so many of our social media posts would be based, like, creating content that we knew would resonate with this imaginary person. And when we did, everyone found it funny or relatable, or like, they liked the thing about the client that bugged them, or all the stuff that designers relate to. It wasn't a happy accident we started producing that content. It's because we were trying to target imaginary Timmy. It should have been like Timberlina, to be honest, because we ended up having way more female design cutters, especially in the early days. But yeah, does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Cool. Amy, just before I move on, I feel like you look slightly skeptical about this point.
No.
Okay.
I just no. Fine, carry on.
Cool. Who's up next?
Well, I had a question.
Was that Doris? There's
so
many faces at the top of my screen now. Yeah. Take it away, Doris.
Might relate to what you were just talking about, but I kind of had a question about Instagram followers, and I get like how to engage the people that are already following you to keep them interested.
Yeah.
But to find new people.
Yes, this is a great question.
And I've been posting fairly regularly over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I see lots of, for me, a lot of engagement or likes and things, but always from the same people.
Yep.
And I've tried using hashtags and not using hashtags, and so.
Okay, so it's a distribution game is the answer. What have you done apart from using different hashtags to get in front of new people?
Nothing.
That's why you're not reaching new people.
Oh, okay.
What other options are there?
Yeah. So it's...
I mean, part of what I'm posting is part of an art challenge for the month of August.
Yeah.
So there's one specific hashtag that I've been using, but and it does draw in the odd new people, but yeah.
I think hashtags are great. Like, you know, they can be used effectively at points, but I think they are not proactive enough. I think you need to be more aggressive when you're trying to build an audience and get out to people. And I'm in exactly this position right now. It's been so busy here at Design Cuts. I haven't had time to attract new people for what I'm building with my personal profile. And therefore I have zero expectation of growing it. I know it's not really going to grow because I'm not putting in the work to do it. So it won't just happen from hashtags. It won't just happen from putting out content. The answer is, I just saw Ari's message there. Was that to me privately? Ari was saying tag new people. That can work on some degree, but if you don't know these people, that might be perceived as spammy. I would say it's kind of two main things. One is going after people one-on-one, or one-by-one rather. And I truly believe it's the best way to build a community. Everyone always thinks about like the big scalable things, but literally building relationships one person at a time. It takes time, it takes work, but it's one of the best ways to build a super engaged community effectively. So what that means is you find your ideal types of people, you start engaging with their content, you start friending them on, say, Instagram, because we're talking about that. And when you do that over time, you will start to get people commenting and chatting back and following you back. And it literally takes time. But if you go and do this enough and you do it at scale, you will build a community because you are just putting in the work to essentially make a friend or 5 friends or 10 friends every single day. And that's how you bring people into the fold. I guarantee if I went and started having conversations with 50 people a day, my followers would start to go up as they became aware of me. And I would do so not in a spammy way. I'm not going on their profile and saying follow for follow, go like my post. I'm bringing them value. I'm leaving insightful comments. I'm connecting with them on a personal level. Maybe I DM them. DMs are incredibly effective for this kind of thing. It cuts through the noise of them getting spammy comments. You go right into their inbox. Really like what you're doing. Be authentic about it. Don't fake it. But, you know, if you really like their artwork or whatever it is they're doing, start bonding, chatting in the DM. And before you know it, oh, there's like you guys, I've never met you in real life, but at some point, right, like we started chatting. Teresa, that ended up with you coming on the podcast or answering your stuff on the podcast. We're now doing this. We're like connecting and chatting here. You got to just put in the time getting to know people and trying to help people in an authentic way. And by bringing those people one at a time, you start to build a community.
And just to add to that, I know that I've found personally that being more engaged on your posts has brought people that follow you to me. And there's a guy from Canada that I talk to that comments pretty regularly on your stuff, Tamer.
Yeah.
He and I chat like once a week, easy. We're just because we have very sort of similar styles calligraphy wise, so we just chat about what we're doing.
Exactly. So you're basically engaging within a community. I would say the caveat there is there aren't that many active communities out there. Normally it's a stream of crappy comments. But if you find one, I'm under no illusions. What I'm doing right now with the whole tribe thing, it's super small. I haven't had the time to grow it yet. Big plans for it, but right now it's incredibly small. But you can see the power of that, right? There might only be a couple of dozen people who are engaging regularly in that. but you're all starting to get to know each other in the comments. And I have seen people connect, start following each other who wouldn't have met otherwise. So that is definitely an effective way, but you don't want to go commenting on like just your average comment feed and expect that to happen. You want to look for the communities instead of just the comment feeds, if you get the distinction. So that's one way. And again, that falls under the kind of one person at a time, just relationship building. The second way is just looking at wider, more scalable distribution. And so that is essentially getting in front of other people's audiences. It's people that have audiences. How do you get in front of their audience? And there's endless ways to do this. For example, we have an audience with the Honest Designers show. When I essentially mentioned my personal profile on there, I got a big spike in engagement and new followers because people who listened to the show went and checked that out. That's very repeatable, which is why when I drop the new show and start, investing more time into all this kind of stuff, I will be getting on various podcasts and talking to people with podcasts, because suddenly their 500 listeners, 5,000 listeners, 2,000 listeners will all be getting the plug and the mention of what I want to do. Hey, come over to my Instagram if you enjoyed this episode. I want to help you with your business stuff. That's when you get these little spikes, which help raise things. So you've got the 1-by-1 method, which is like the very slow burner, which takes years and years, and you slowly build it up. And that's a great idea. And that builds engagement. And along the way, you'll get this little spike where overnight you get 50 new followers, 200 new followers because you appeared on XYZ show, or you did a guest blog somewhere and plugged your thing in it, or someone I've had people like tag me in their stories. I don't know if you guys know like Michael Fugstrater. He's a designer and illustrator. He started re-sharing some of my stories, which he liked. He's got like 40,000 followers or something. So I'd get a 2 dozen new followers overnight from that stuff happening. So I truly believe the best way to get new followers is you combine both, one at a time, and organized distribution, getting other people's audiences to come check you out. Does that answer your question, Doris?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the prospect of doing that?
It's just a little bit uncomfortable, but that's just my personality.
I completely empathize. It doesn't come naturally to most of us.
Yeah.
What is your personality? Do you tend to be quite organized and systematic?
No, not organized, just very quiet, very to myself, timid, like just not, I don't want to use the term antisocial, but maybe antisocial. So having sort of, hiding behind an illustrated avatar, for example.
Yeah.
If you get any of my social media stuff, I don't have pictures of myself.
But you're on a live video call with a bunch of people.
Well, yeah, and I'm
awesome.
Squirming.
Yeah.
So, social media is easier than networking events. Those kind of like, I've been to those, and this just not my thing.
Okay, so I would still suggest you do both strategies. I could see you being more natural with the first one, which is one-on-one relationship building. But I would do that in the same way that you engage with my content, because there's a reason you're here. You're one of the most engaged people. You're always super chatty. You leave these lovely, thoughtful, in-depth comments. You're never spammy. You're empathetic. You relate to stuff. You've got good EQ skills in that respect. And you can go and apply that to other people. At one stage, you didn't know me at all. I wasn't offended when you started engaging with my content. I was flattered. So you're not about to go out and start pitching people. I could see it would be uncomfortable if I was go find a list of 50 podcasters and go send them an email pitch and be have me on your podcast. That would be uncomfortable for you, I would imagine. But you essentially doing what you're doing here and doing on my content with new people, that might come a little bit more naturally, where you're there and just leaving lovely, charming comments and engaging and supporting their work and all that kind of stuff, which you seem to be very good at. And through doing that, if you kind of start with that, you'll start to kind of make friends and build, bring people in one at a time. And you can do exactly the same thing. Instead of cold pitching someone with a podcast, it might be that your journey of kind of connecting with people one by one might lead you to someone that has a podcast or has a blog, and you don't go in with a pitch from day one. You do what you're doing here, and for example, if you get to this level of interaction, let's say we do a weekly call, Doris, and you're on every single one for the next 3 months. I'd like to think that as uncomfortable as you might feel with this kind of stuff, if you had an ask for me, if you're like, do you mind giving a shout out to your new show XYZ that you're doing in my stories, for example, you would get to know me by that point well enough that you might feel comfortable enough to ask. So I would deploy your authentic connections with people. You come across super authentic and, you know, like you have good integrity and all of those things. And that often comes with people that they're not like bombastically out there, right? And in your face, but that's not a weakness. That can be a strength because you connect with people on a deep level. So I would utilize that.
The other part that I find awkward when I read comments, and I think this is why I actually take a long time to respond to your posts, because I read them and I don't want to jump on and go, awesome comment, good. I'm like, there's always the same message behind every comment. And not every post or not every thought I have about other people's posts are always positive. Like, but I feel like if I don't say something positive, then like nobody's going to want to hang out with a downer in the corner kind of thing, right? So it's always a struggle. Like, how do I craft this response that's like honest, but not overly critical or negative, or because I don't, like I said, I don't want to just repeat good post like everybody.
Yeah,
like
but that sucks. Like what matters right now, I think, on social media, one of the key things is the depth of interaction that you have. And people are becoming incredibly blind to this good post thing. I hate it. I've spoken about it in my content so many times. I would prefer not to have those followers and not to get those comments. I get the occasional one where I actually just delete it because it just sounds so spammy. And like you guys are pouring out like essays of stuff, and it's amazing. It's the best feeling in the world. So that is a strength. I would say if like 2 out of 10 of my posts, if you post something that's more on the negative side, but in a constructive way, which I'm sure it would be, I would actually value you more as just being a very honest, authentic person. And so I doubt you're going to be out there like being a hater and spamming people and tearing them down.
Yeah.
So if you're being
I wouldn't intend to be a hater, but it's a bit scary to think that I might be viewed as a hater or a negative, or, you know, so I don't know.
No, I get it. But as I say, you don't strike me as that kind of person. So I'm sure if you were leaving generally positive comments, which you do, and occasionally something more on the constructive side, as long as you're building that relationship, you know, if that's your 14th comment and it's a bit more on the constructive side, which could be perceived as negative, hopefully in the long game you win because they just value you being an honest person. If you go and comment on 100 new people's posts and you start on the negative footing, that might not be such a good idea. But as I say, like if I got something from you like that, I would use it to improve my content and I'd take it well. But that's because we have context now and I get to learn what you're like.
I guess that's part of it, is that if you kind of come in cold, it's different. People read your comment different than if they kind of know who you are a little bit. And I think that might be the scary thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel more comfortable being more critical, I guess, on like your posts because we've had this interaction, but you know, I'm trying to engage somebody new and, you know, I maybe intend to offer some criticism from a good place and it just comes across as like bitchy or something, then
I think your social skills seem certainly strong enough to kind of tread the line on that one.
I work hard at it.
I'm sure. And I'll give you an example. I did a post a while back. I don't know if you guys remember, where I was talking about introverts versus extroverts. And I slightly defined it. And I had some people like calling me out and correcting me, being like, well, actually, introverts can be super confident. It's not about a confidence thing. It's about energy.
I think I did.
That might have been you. And it was a few others. And it's more where you get your energy from, and you need to go and kind of recharge in solitude and that kind of thing. And I love knowing that now. I've literally told like half a dozen friends that, like, I made it up and I'm really smart. And I'm like, actually, that's the correct definition of an introvert. And I really, really valued having that. And I commented back to everyone and said, like, thank you for kind of teaching me that. And that's, I kind of half knew that, but you put it so much clearer and it's kind of much clearer in my head now. So yeah, like I valued that feedback.
Okay.
Cool.
I guess you can use this also, sorry, just one more comment. You can also use this and to tie it back into what Miranda was saying to try to figure out who it is that you want to work with by engaging these.
I was literally about to say that. I would do some of the audience stuff first and then go on the offensive of putting the work in building relationships with people. So you don't want to be scattergun. If you're starting to see, okay, my most engaged follower, like, and you can reverse engineer it as well. So if you have an audience and you see there's certain characters who engage on everything, they perhaps buy stuff, they're your dream customer, you can start, and marketing firms do this at scale in a very techie way, but you can do it at our scale as well, where it's like, what common traits do they have? Are they all kind of sharing traits? And then you start to build this persona around people who you already have in your audience that you want to replicate. And then you go after them with a one-on-one.
It helps too that like you can find, there's obviously analytics there, but you can find out who your followers are also following. So you know where they're hanging out online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's exactly that.
Easier to find like more of the same.
Yeah, and I'll give you another hack. I'm not ready to do it yet because first of all, I always believe in like delivering more value than you kind of get. I want to really, really over deliver for you guys, but I'll be totally transparent now. Down the line, I will probably do a post when the tribe's a bit bigger and say, I'm looking to like help more people get the word out more. Can you tag one friend that is a similar entrepreneur? And if you think this would help them, tag them, get them to say hi, and then I'll jump in and start helping them as well. And like, I expect a little increase when that happens, if people have friends and are willing to do that, but that would be another kind of hack.
Is it okay to do that? Like, I mean, just sort of on a general level, like if I had I did a piece and I posted it and at the end I said, and tag somebody who you think would like this. Is that kind of considered okay to do, or is that kind of spammy?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be context. I don't think anyone would find that offensive. I don't know how effective it might be right off the bat, but like I'm giving you context now. I'm gonna give more context. Like in the post, I would literally say, like, if you feel like I've brought you value, like Teresa, you've been so outspoken, for example. I know in a big part that's because we like had 4 of us on the podcast, like drastically trying to help your business and brainstorming and breaking it down. And funny enough, after we tried to bring you as much value as possible, you started like engaging more and commenting more, and we've got to know you more. It wasn't so much like a strategy on our part. That's just how it works, right? If we never bothered doing that and you asked us a question and we ignored you, you probably wouldn't be here right now. So the more you give, the more you can ask for. And yeah, that's just what it comes down to. Cool. Anyone up next? And by the way, for the record, like any follow-ups on today, like Miranda and Doris, just literally message me anytime. I'll give you one of the awkward Instagram videos where it cuts off halfway through and makes like an idiot.
Classy.
Yeah. Yeah. Who is up next? Teresa, you're the big face on my screen right now. You want to jump in? Or Amy, you look like you're about to say something as well. Either one of you guys.
I think let Amy go if she's got something to say.
I don't think all I want to ask is it's more about freelancing than Instagram and finding customers to buy products.
Yeah.
You did an Honest Designers show a couple of months back, I think, where Ian talked about his business and being a graphic designer and freelancing, and you're all giggling because you all kind of related to it.
Yeah.
Have you had lots of comments on this?
Yeah, I just remember, I think we cut out like about 10 minutes where like Lisa fell off us, Dustin and me and Lisa, we were like crying. You know, it wasn't even that funny, but you know, something really gets at the wrong. Sorry, quick, go on.
No, it's fine. But I was just thinking, what he was describing was basically me, and I thought, well, it's probably the rest of the freelancers. Like, you do take all the work you can get, and it is random stuff, and it's not high profile. And I was thinking, oh, am I doing something wrong? Should I be aiming for something different? Or because I know the whole thing was about passive income, that show?
No, I feel like it might have been a different one. It might have been more about the freelancing space.
Oh, was it?
Um,
I don't know what the final outcome was, but it was about
Yeah.
how he now makes a living kind of passively, wasn't it, rather than doing freelance
Mhm.
work.
yeah, keep going. I think I know what you're going to ask.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you all were kind of cringing at his story,
Yeah.
what should freelancers really be aiming for?
Sure. So I think you should be aiming for whatever is going to make you happiest, first of all. The reason we were cringing is because the way I related to it was when I was at the phase he was describing, it felt kind of like when you're a teenager and you're not necessarily unhappy, but you just haven't found yourself yet. You know, like in general life, often people might be 15 or 25 or 55 and they're kind of like click into gear and like really find themselves. Often it happens like after college or whatever. That's, I guess, how it felt on a career level, where I just remember being this kid being like anyone who give me work, like, yeah, random restaurant down there. I had like clients who really mistreated me, but I was like, yeah, I'll do work for you. And I think I was actually a teenager at the time, but I was acting kind of like an insecure teenager with a lot of my business decisions. And I wasn't doing it with any confidence or clarity. I didn't have a clearly defined brand. I never thought about like, who do I actually want to target? What kind of work do I want to be doing? What should I be charging? How do I value my time? It was this kind of desperate clawing for anything I could get.
Okay.
And that resulted in like a really muddy brand of, I think Ian's was like Ian Barnard Designs. There's nothing wrong with using your name, but again,
Yeah, mine's not
yeah, I was going to say, like, yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. But I remember we were doing it just from a lack of like, it would either be because we had no idea what to call ourselves, or it would be that we tried to do that and make it something it wasn't. So it would be like, you'd present it in like a real corporate looking logo, like you were some huge agency, but it was like you in your bedroom being like, this is me, like Tea Roast Designs, like check it out kind of thing.
That's what I don't like when people say we. So when I started, I was like, it's never going to be about pretending that I'm a big company. I'm never going to say we can do this or we can do that. It was all like so it was about me. So that's why I just went with my name.
Yeah, which is completely awesome. And there are some ridiculously successful, respected designers doing exactly that. So there's nothing wrong in that whatsoever.
Mhm.
I think in many ways it's a strength. It's certainly better than people purporting to be some big agency and doing the whole we, like hiding behind faceless pages.
Yeah.
When it's like, this is me, Amy, here's what I'm like. I like working with people who are similar like this. I want to work, if you're like that, I want to work with you, and here's how I'm going to help you and bring you value with my skills, which you're going to pay me for. Is essentially the dynamic. But I don't know where your head's at currently. Like, do you feel clear on the, like, who you're targeting, the business model, your brand, for example?
No, I need to develop that. But as long as someone is willing to pay me what I want to be paid, and it's kind of the style and things that I like, then I'll do the job.
Yep.
It's very rare that I turn someone down. They normally just say, no, I'm not paying that. And I'm like, fine, bye.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all really. I wouldn't turn down the restaurant down the road if they wanted to pay me enough.
And nor should you. And
No.
pretty much no one should. But I don't know if you have a particular dream in mind. Like, do you have a dream type of work you'd like to be doing, a dream type of client you'd like to be working, a dream amount of money you'd like to be charging, a dream end goal? Would you love to have a team? Do you want to remain working by yourself? Like, all that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I always wanted to have my own agency. When I was at university, I always wanted to be an art director, and I thought, I don't want to actually do the creating. I want to be with the ideas, but I want to be kind of offloading that and other people get on with that.
Mm-hmm.
But that seems a million miles away, and not something that I don't know if it's the right goal now with family and everything. I mean, the reason I do what I do is so I can do it around school pickups and things, and whenever I want to do it. So owning a business and having employees doesn't really seem feasible.
You never know. We can get to that in a second. But so in terms of, let's say, you're art directing, what kind of work are you art directing for? What kind of people at what kind of rate in an ideal world?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay. Off the top of your head,
dream.
because I mainly follow you on Give Me Strength. I'm not as familiar with your other stuff. So
I don't have my design work on Instagram.
Okay, but what kind of, is it more web design, branding?
It's a bit of everything, really. That's the thing. I don't focus down. I've always said I don't take on big jobs. I like small jobs which I can turn over quickly.
Yeah,
like about 4 hours kind of max. I can churn them out quick.
Okay.
Onto the next.
Like what kind of stuff?
So I do things like leaflets, posters. I do lots of web banners and Google adverts. Anything small, really. But when people come to me with whole website design, I always say no. So
because by the sound of it, you don't enjoy that kind of work as much.
I don't enjoy it, and also I don't have the time to sit down for 8 hours in a row to do it. So it would be really broken, and it would take me a long time to get it finished, and I'd have to turn away clients in that time.
Yep.
So I don't like to say no to a long-standing client.
Yep.
So I'll always say yes, and I'll always scramble to get it done. But that's why I like the smaller jobs.
Yep.
So I do have a lot of. Now I'm thinking about it. I have a lot of kind of small businesses who can't afford to hire a designer. So I'm just their go-to. So I'm their go-to designer, basically.
Yep.
I thought about having that exact same sort of model at one point when I was looking at doing design work. And I thought, yeah, there's probably tons of work out there for people who have little jobs, who know exactly what they want to do, and all they really need is somebody to execute it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can
That's
get that.
exactly what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they know you, they can just, when you know their brand and everything, they can just say, oh, can you just design me a postcard side leaflet, please? Here's the text.
Mm-hmm.
And then off you go.
Yeah.
So by the sound of it, you want to be doing ongoing work for a collection of clients. You don't want sporadic strangers every day being like, I need this doing, I need that doing.
No, that's right. But I have that already.
So, okay.
It's just increasing the workload, I suppose.
Sure. So the only way to scale really in the long term is to hire people. It sounds like that's what you want anyway. By the sound of it, what's stopping you is like, that's a huge commitment. You don't want to go and like have the fancy office and be there managing a team full time, etc. So my suggestion, and this is only a suggestion, but would be, why don't you grow out a remote team underneath you? And essentially, bear with me. Essentially, that would kind of tick all the boxes with the awareness, obviously, that managing any kind of team is stressful. But if you want to be an art director, that's the job. If you want to grow a business, that's the job. But what you're then doing is your job becomes looking after your clients and keeping the relationships happy, onboarding and attracting new clients, and managing a team of remote designers to handle the deliverables of each project.
Yeah.
And that becomes pretty scalable up to quite a high level, because you could feasibly have, say, 5 or 6 designers working all around the world using something like Upwork or Odesk or whatever they're all called, where you go and find people where they have their rate. It's significantly cheaper than yours, normally because of where they're based. But you find people that are trustworthy, have great reviews. You go through proper interview process, etc., etc. You train them, you educate them in the client's brand. You're always the final checkpoint. You have contingencies in case they mess up and you need to save that project and keep your reputation. But you will land on people, and I've used these people before, where they are incredibly cheap, but they're actually very, very good. And they're especially good at the kind of work you're describing. They might not be as good for like a 30 grand entire brand rebuild on a corporate level, but for web banners and leaflets and posters and everything you mentioned, they can churn that stuff out, absolutely. But by having people working underneath you, it becomes a scalable operation instead of just you doing it and trying to fit that around family life and everything else.
Yeah.
And that kind of ticks every box. It ticks the scale box. It ticks you being the art director box. It lets you focus on the stuff it sounds like you enjoy the most.
But
you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like a service like Fiverr, but like with good quality people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a much smaller Fiverr with a curated team and a select like group of clients instead of just anyone that wants it, and you being the personality and the brand, Amy, that sits at the front of all of that and pulls the strings. And these people don't need to know that you're outsourcing. I did this myself. I was one of the designers that got outsourced when I was younger, a teenager, and trying to pay my way through university, I worked for, I think it was 2 different agencies who would just give me a new website design project every single week. And they made like a great margin on me because I was a student who was happy for the work and the money, and they were charging like 2-3 times what they were paying me to the client. And so all they did was they fed it to me. They gave me a bit of feedback if they weren't quite happy. I did that. They got all the files from me and they collected the money and essentially sat there and did the least hours. It's a great model if you get it right.
But what happens if you don't like the work that they're providing you? That's the thing that puts me off.
Yeah. So first of all, you interview correctly. So you don't just hire anyone. You do your research. You look for examples of their work, of course. You look for reviews if it is a site like Upwork or whatever. I would recommend some kind of like trial shift where you give them, we do this with people we hire, even if it's not design related. You give them a sample hypothetical project, even if you pay for that time. So you might pay for 2 or 3 hours of their time. You give them a made up client brief, or you give them a brief a client gave you recently, which you designed for. You see what they go and do for it and think, would the client have been happy or as happy as the work I did?
Okay.
And you also need to recognize that their 85% of your 100% might be necessary to scale, because you probably will find no one's going to end up being quite as good as you are. But you need to accept that if you want.
You haven't seen my work.
I want to though. How does all of that sit with you?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I have thought about it before, but I just kind of pushed it back and just concentrated on getting the job done just to earn money, really. But yeah, it's something to think about.
Like, you don't want to go 10 steps ahead of where you are now. So you're not going to start with 5 people. You would start with 1. Okay. And you're not going to start with 1 doing all your projects and suddenly it's all on them. You use them as like a little extra help. And then if they work out, you gradually up their workload. And if they don't, you go find someone better, because there's always someone better, quite frankly.
The quality of client is going to have to be quite high, though, to be able to pay enough for me to take a scrape off the top.
It depends. I won't pry and ask what your hourly rate is, but some of these people are incredibly cheap for what they do.
I'll tell you what my hourly rate is. You can tell me if you think I'm expensive or not. £40.
Okay. Yeah.
£40
okay. So let's call that $50. Some of these people are like $10.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good margin when you're not the one doing the work.
Okay.
I mean, even if they're $20, like, that's still a great margin.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No worries. Let me know how it goes. Seriously, I would love to see you do that. And as I say, it's all about toe in the water. And that's the beauty. The scary, like, if you rented the office and went and hired the team and did all the legal stuff of that, that's scary as shit. But you going and finding one remote person and saying, well, I've got, 100% work this week. I'm going to give them 5% of that and see how they get on, just to take some of that burden off of me. It will relieve some of the tension because you're delegating and just allocating money instead of time. And then it's like, oh, actually, that went pretty well. Next week, I'm going to give them 10% out of my 100. Next week, I'll give them 20%.
Okay.
You're like, how did I ever live without them?
I think the hard bit is going to be kind of getting it set up, getting a website which looks good, and
Well, do you need all of that? You already said you're doing client work and you have existing clients. You can keep everything exactly how it is now, but just delegate to someone else.
I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. I'd want new clients. I wouldn't be happy someone else designing for my existing clients.
Go and listen to the Honest Designers episodes where we talk to Meg Sayers, because she had this exact thing. You can actually swing it. I'm not necessarily recommending this, but as she is scaling or trying to, she's talking about hiring people to help. And she actually is going to use that as a reason to increase her prices, because she's going to say, look, I'm hiring talented people to help provide the best service I can, because otherwise I'm not going to keep up with the volume of work, but I'm going to train them. I'm going to educate them in your brand. I will always be the final bar of quality. I'm going to work and creatively direct with them. We're going to do better work than ever because it's going to be a team working on your stuff. But now my rate's actually going up 20% because there's now management fees. That's going to sit incredibly uncomfortably with you. So I'm not saying you need to increase your rates. You don't, but you can either not tell them, or you can be totally transparent and tell them, but sell it to them. Don't say, oh, by the way, some random cheap bloke's now doing your design work, not me. I'm starting to build up as things are scaling, and it's all going really well, and I love working with you. I'm getting a bit of extra help in that. Like that's running an agency. Like Matt, our creative director, he ran an agency for years. Like clients weren't fussed that he was getting help from a junior designer and a senior designer, because he always was there as the final bar of like, it's good enough or it's not good enough.
And what's his reason for not doing it still?
They went out of business.
Okay.
After years, and Design Cuts was growing so fast, he was like, I can't do both.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if I should have shared that or not, but yeah.
It's okay, I won't say anything.
Thanks.
I just wonder why if he had an agency, why would he then stop doing it to work for another company?
Oh, right. Well, he was involved in Design Cuts as well, but
okay,
Design
so he
Cuts
was
growing and growing and growing, and
okay, that's fair enough.
Taking more of his time.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Hope that's helpful. Seriously, let me know how it goes. Like, I'm more than happy if you want to message me to like make suggestions of websites where to find people, to define the interview process a little bit more in detail and that kind of stuff. But like, I guarantee you get like Dustin at Retro Supply. You know Dustin?
Mm-hmm.
Podcast. He has Suzanne who works for him. She is now like creating products, doing the preview graphics, helping with customer service. All of these things he could never relinquish control of, she's now doing, and he's never been happier and able to scale things more. You will always be the bottleneck otherwise.
Okay. I might need to give me strength stuff a knock on the head if I do that kind of thing though. Because this was just a kind of testing the water.
Maybe. Like, there's no shame in pivoting or giving up some things to focus on others. Like, focus on what works. If that's currently working for you and you see opportunity to scale, then give that a punt.
Well, no, that's just kind of a sideline. I just wanted to create something.
What was giving me strength?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you can see the client stuff working more. And
well, definitely. That's what I have to do on the day to day, because that doesn't pay anything. Well, barely.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, like if your dream's to art direct, then start what we're talking about and you'll be well on your way to being an art director.
Okay, I'm trying.
Cool. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Like, I am really here. Like, I never want to be overbearing. Like, this is all your businesses, but like, I am trying to make myself indispensable because I truly want to help. So just message or call me anytime if you need like a chat.
Okay.
Cool. Who is up? Teresa, you were going to go.
I kind of think I must rather talk to you one-on-one with this, because it's going back to the podcast.
Okay. Do you want to try it here, but only if you're comfortable?
Yeah, well, short. I don't know if the other ones heard the podcast, but the thing was that I felt stuck in the business and needed to, scale things. And it sounds like, Amy, you and me do quite basically the same things. And I also started my second business because I wanted to do something different as well. And that has grown to be more than my original business.
Which business is the one that's doing really well?
Derasi, the printed stuff. Gifts, sure. Which has now become to a point where they're both competing for time and space, and I can't really ditch either one of them because they're both really contributing really well. And so I looked into the whole wedding thing that we spoke about, but like literally a day after that podcast, some of our wedding clients were just the worst.
And I remember you messaging saying, I thought about it. Yeah, I remember you being like, I don't want to do weddings.
That's not going to happen.
Don't do weddings then.
Yeah, that's where I go with Tanya, that where you find that your client base, specific, that audience, it's just the audience that you don't like them. You don't like them because they become to a point where you don't want to actually deal with them for no amount of money in the world.
Okay, so let's say you've got your design work. That's like Pritig, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got Pritig for the design and you've got Derasi for the products. Let's say they were like 50-50, right? In terms of what they were making it. So let's say the total is obviously 100, and let's say 50 units out of that 100 was Pritig, 50 units was Derasi. Where is it now that Derasi is starting to scale?
It's more on... and say on Facebook and on Instagram, I'm getting much more feedback from there. I'm getting bigger orders.
Mhm.
Where it used
But-
to be like one gift, one print. Now it's like 100 suddenly for the same thing.
Yeah,
Like,
do you mind if we talk
it's-
money? Is that okay?
yeah.
Okay. So how much money was Durassi making?
Uh,
Was like before it started taking off?
It was very small. It was like maybe I was trying to figure out to
Oh, yeah.
convert it back
Hold
to
on.
dollars and stuff.
Tell me in
Well, let's go on now on XE. It used to be very small, like
Yeah.
say 4,000 rand, which is less than $300,
yeah, okay.
roughly there. This last month, it was maybe even triple that.
Well, good for you.
Which is great. And where I let go is where I outsource stuff. So I literally just do the design, and I found a like screen printer or someone that I know that I can trust.
Mhm.
And so I don't actually have to physically put in the time. It's which will make me be able to scale it.
Yep, great.
But the thing was between the names, like even though Prettig does well, and I like what I'm doing there, I hate the name and I need to change it. And I
Mhm.
thought about putting the two businesses into one business and offering all the different services.
Yeah.
But Dirassi's name doesn't work for the clients that I have under
Sure.
Prettig as well.
So-
And that's
so-
where I'm stuck at the moment.
Would you
Getting a
be
new name.
Would you be happy just working in Durassi if it really took off and you just dropped Predict?
No, I don't think so. I like
Okay.
this. I like that work as well.
So, yeah, so you want to do both.
Yeah.
Okay. Why
So,
is and Predict's kind of plateaued, right, with revenue?
No, suddenly the last 2 months, it's just spiked again out of nowhere. Like,
Can I take full credit?
Um,
Let's just say it was all down to the podcast, right?
I give it everything to you.
Okay.
All hail
Uh,
Tom.
No, I'm sure it's nothing to do with us at all, but I am unbelievably happy to hear that because we were like all rooting for you when you were on the show.
No, but I really think it is. It's just being in a different mindset
Yeah.
with
You sounded
looking
so
at your
burnt
stuff,
out
and
like,
I was done. I was on my way out, like
This is
shutting
so-
my computer down.
you're here like laughing and smiling and sounding optimistic. This is
Exactly.
the
That
coolest
first
thing to
one, I
see.
was like basically crying.
That's so awesome.
And the problem is now it's both doing well, but I know I need to put work in. I know I need to decide on the
Mhm.
names and doing a rebrand and doing the website. I need to do that because it's going to go down,
Yeah.
and I need to keep it up.
Okay.
But I'm struggling with the name. I'm struggling. The names are not. Prettig's not working. The name's over.
Okay.
It's
Well,
over.
if your biggest issue is that you're making a shed load more sales and you're not happy with the name, that's a good issue to have. Trust me. So I
Yeah.
really wouldn't stress over that. Like, just to clarify, what are you selling with the printables? And who to? What kind of audience is it? What general kind of stuff is the look of it?
It's everything, literally from baby grows to where they've got like custom for a birthday party or a newborn,
Okay.
baby showers.
What, like prints and
Everything
stuff?
up
and-
to prints.
Prints,
up
baby
to
grows, yeah.
aprons for businesses doing events and
Okay.
having the logo
Good.
branded, like branded items, corporate items, anything.
Okay. And have you got the same website?
I've got two different websites. So Prettig has got its own, and Dirassi's got its
For
own.
Durassi, I mean,
Yes,
you've got the same website. Okay.
Yeah.
And where do you know for both where the uptick is coming from? Like, why are you starting to get more customers?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think you could find out? Like, is it,
I think mostly it's very organic. It's circle of friends and people they know.
Yeah. Okay.
That goes out from there. It's
Great way to build it.
that's how it's been since I started 12 years ago.
And are you making the orders on your website for Durassias, or more like word of mouth and just doing it kind of more transactionally with individual people?
It's individual, coming from mostly from Facebook. Facebook and Instagram, people see the posts, people tag their friends in it and show, oh, you'd like that for your son or your kid or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Social media, definitely.
Okay, awesome. So they contact you and you just handle the transaction, as opposed to they go to your website and buy it from the website?
Yes, because it's all custom.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a set range. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, I'm looking on your Instagram now. Yeah, you got Baby Grow and people like saying, I like this, I want this, etc., etc. Okay. So as I say, I'm super happy for you. This is amazing. You know the expression "strike while the iron is hot."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, now's the time
Yes.
to take all of this optimism and this energy and just like work incredibly hard and smart to push this whole thing forward. So don't get too hung up on the name. Like, I think, yeah, great. If you want to consolidate the brand, etc., you can do that, but I would not waste a tremendous amount of time working behind the scenes when actually now's the time to be pushing harder to get more customers, get repeat buys off your existing customer base while those existing customers, and grow the business. If you went under now for 3 months to work on a shiny new brand, like you might miss the momentum of what's currently happening. So
I've actually done it all. I've done both websites, redone them with new branding. I just
sweet.
Something is stopping me from actually moving over.
Okay, why?
I don't know if I'm procrastinating. I don't know if I'm going to make a mistake and change everything over to a new name on Prettig side and having it blow up in my face. And yeah.
Have you got a new name in mind?
Yes, but I'm like 95% there. And I think that's what's stopping me actually pushing publish.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. If we do a live poll where everyone on this call is going to put their hand up if they think you should move to the new name, if there was a majority vote, would you do it?
I'll do it, yeah.
Okay, cool.
No problem.
You heard it here first, guys. So currently it's Prettig, which we kind of agreed, like even some South Africans didn't seem to know what that meant. So that's why you're not happy. It's not resonating.
Yes.
What's the new name that you're thinking of going with?
That's so much pressure to actually just say it out loud. Lemon Salt Studio.
Okay, cool. And is that in a kind of tequila sense of the word?
No, it's bringing flavor, adding flavor, and adding flavor to a business.
Cool. Okay.
That was the thought behind it. But I think,
I like it.
I don't know.
I like it. Is it like quite a South African thing as well? You think it would go well in that market?
Yes, it's very, very South African at the moment to do stuff like that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So shall we do a vote? Hands up if you think Teresa should bite the bullet and just change her name over. People spoken. Okay. Do me a favor. So you're going to keep Durasi. You've got Lemon Salt Studio, was it, or design? Or
yeah, I'm juggling between the two. I kind of feel I should go with design because I'm not really a studio, so I don't want to tag on something that
fine. Design, that's done.
I don't know.
Don't waste any more time. Design it is. You have to move quickly here. This is like in a year the whole landscape of this market is different, and
my husband's gonna love you because he's like, I'm overhearing about this.
It's so human nature. But honestly, I would just write Lemon Salt Design, done, great. And you got a new website for that, and you got a new website for Durasi. You don't have to worry about merging them yet. You're rebranding Prettig for obvious reasons because that wasn't quite working. Durasi is clearly working. So you can keep that. You can reconsider merging them maybe further down the line, but you've already
that's what I was thinking. Right? Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So if you don't mind, send me the website. I'll give you my email. Send me both websites purely because this, out of everything in business, this is one of the things I feel strongest and most confident about because I think it's been like over 400 websites that I've critiqued now. So I know what I'm talking about with it. I'm sure they look lovely, but for the sake of like 10 minutes, I could just cast an eye and be like, tweak that. That's going to convert better. That's clearer. It's just helpful to have that external. So if you feel comfortable with that, I'd be more than happy to. But just if they're built do that, make any revisions, and then just get them live. What you should be doing is figuring out how are you going to accelerate the momentum which is happening, if that's what you want to do.
Yes. Well, the first thing's going to be, because I've really slowed down on my posts, because I wanted to figure out what I was going to actually do. So I know I'm going to start reposting a lot, which I haven't been doing the last couple of months. I've really pulled back to see what's happening. Yeah.
So
that will be the first thing. But yeah,
it's the classic thing, right? Of like, you're spinning all the plates. My personal thing, the only thing that works is structure and scheduling.
Yeah.
So if you set out a daily plan, you want to tick all of the key things, right? So it's like, okay, I've got an hour here for like social media posts and that kind of thing. I've got an hour here for reaching out to all the people that have bought products from me and sending them a thank you note or a thank you email or a thank you video on Instagram or whatever. I've got like an hour here for how I'm going to attract new prospects. I've got an hour here for like Facebook ads or whatever it is. Like, obviously you need to sit and come up with your aspirations and then backtrack from there and work out exactly what you're looking to achieve.
Yes.
But if you have all this floating around your head, none of it's going to get done. But if you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to set a timer, as much as I can get done in that hour, I'm going to like make my existing customers happier. As much as I can get done in the next hour, I'm going to churn out some social media content, etc., etc. It's, for me, the only way I can work and not get lost in the sheer like floating.
Yeah, it was like I attended this workshop today for Facebook for Business. Which I knew I just needed to go just to refocus and so that I know I've got a plan going forward. Yeah. So
cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I just I can't say it enough. I think now's the time to kind of pounce with this, and you would be amazed. Like, is it like 300% growth? Like, that's nuts. That's really nuts with Durasi. So
no, it is.
Like, you know, start working on new products, start putting out more social content. I really would. I don't know how many people have bought from you on that. I would reach out to every single one of them. And I would say, first of all, thank you. Like, I'm not trying to sell you like anything. I just want to say I truly appreciate the fact that you bought from us.
Yeah.
And if you're open to it, I would love to speak with you just to learn, you know, the kind of stuff that you generally like and anything that you'd love to see, and just start having those conversations. So you're learning more about your customers, you're engaging, you're getting back on their radar. They might have forgotten about you. You're surprising them out of the blue with a heartfelt thank you. And you might start getting in conversations with them and learn that actually 45% of them are really interested in baseball caps or something. And then you go and make that your next product.
Yeah, because this one big order that I got was purely because we've done some business in the past, but over a year ago. Mm-hmm. And I just commented on one of her Instagram posts again.
Yeah.
Something that we will, and they said, "Oh, I'm beginning this new business, and I completely forgot that you actually do printing. Can you quote me?" And that was it.
That's a perfect example. So if you've got 100 customers, go do that with 100 people. But the beauty is, you're not going to 100 people and say, "Hey, remember me? Buy my new product." You're reaching out to 100 people. It's like, "Hey, like, I'm just getting a bit more organized with what I'm doing. It's a really exciting year, and I wanted to reach out as a previous customer of mine and just say how much I appreciated that." That's it. It goes a freaking long way, and no one bothers to do that.
Yeah. Cool.
Is that everyone? Tanya, did you go?
No.
Okay.
My head's a bit messed at the moment, so I think I'll leave it for this week because I'm having a bit of a crisis. Existential crisis.
Are you okay? Sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good. No, I've just got a bad case of shiny object syndrome again.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it? This is a safe space.
Safe space. Yeah.
Is it a diamond ring?
No, I wish.
Bit of bling.
No, well, it's just to cut to the crunch. I really want to make some money, and I feel guilty even saying that. And I'm just trying to find a digital product that will make me some money.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one that was making other people money, but it's just something completely new again. But it kind of might work with my style because I like kind of doing the flat style of drawing and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like I keep having these ideas and trying them and then moving on, and I really just want to settle with something and then put everything you've said about marketing and things into place. But I feel like I can't start doing that because I
Until you
haven't
have
really
something.
settled on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling guilty because I feel like I should just focus on one thing, but I keep not doing that.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't beat yourself up so much. Look at Ian, look at Lisa, for examples. Lisa started doing like retro logos and stuff like that, like so many people did. Their first product was not what they ended up doing. They got there by releasing a series of products that incrementally moved them closer. So they, in a way, had shiny object syndrome, where they were doing what you just described. They didn't have their own style. They didn't have the confidence, perhaps, to release something that was truly them. So they were going, what's everyone else doing? Oh, I'll try that. And they did it over and over again until they kind of moved towards a path of developing a congruent brand. And
I think they were doing it because they were following they wanted to draw, and I mean I do want to draw, but they, and Ian was like experimenting with his writing to start with, wasn't he? Just doing it for fun things, and it kind of grew. Whereas I'm doing it because I really want to earn some money. So
they did that too. I'm not talking about just them drawing and doing lettering. I'm talking about them selling digital products.
Oh, okay.
They were selling products which were inherently not their style. It was what everyone else was doing, and they didn't really get traction. And so they'd try something else and something else, and 8, 9, 12 products later, they started to finally land on the style, and they got a bit of traction, and then it kind of built from there. But my point is, they were where you're saying you are now. So where you're at now, it's not inherently a bad thing. It's just that you're slightly earlier on the path than they are. The key with this stuff is always to do. If a year goes by and you release one product, you only move forward one product. But if you release 12 products, who cares if they're not all bestsellers or they're not the perfect fit?
Yeah.
Because each one you're going to learn so much. You're going to learn about making vector artwork. You're going to learn about how to make a more compelling product preview. You're going to learn about copywriting. You're going to learn about market demand. You're going to learn about trends. Like each one, you're going to learn so much. But in order to learn, you have to just keep putting them out.
Yeah.
And at the
It's
same
a
time,
completely different audience as well. Sorry. It's a completely different audience as well.
What's the product idea?
Well, I've been selling to scrapbookers at the moment, like who you were talking about earlier. But it's basically some more SVGs for people to make T-shirts with. So it's designs that they then use like a cutting machine. It sounds like very niche, but actually there's a market for it, just like there is with the scrap.
It's huge, Tanya.
Yeah.
Because that's part of what I use to do my
Oh, is
stuff.
it? Yeah. And basically you sell the SVGs and they cut them at home and then they can iron them onto the T-shirt.
Got you.
And then either for their own personal use or what I'm probably aiming for is people to then sell the T-shirts on.
So you're trying to target T-shirt designers?
Yeah.
But like physical T-shirt designers rather than the ones creating the artwork?
Yeah, people that aren't artistic but want to want to do something crafty.
Okay.
Can't.
So it's hard, right? Because when you're talking about you need and want to earn money, that's at odds against, well, enjoy the process of learning and kind of chill out with the whole thing, right? Because you've got the urgency of the financial side, but the correct thing to do is to actually be in this thing and developing it and learning it over time and have the patience with it.
Yeah. But the other thing is, because what I've been doing on the other side is more art stuff on my personal account, which has been more flat. I haven't posted it all, but I've been doing kind of flat vector stuff without even thinking about this T-shirt thing. And I just looked at the two and thought, well, actually, they're quite my style. Fits with because you're basically cutting colours out and putting them together to make a pattern on the T-shirt. So
the same way you don't want to target customers and clients that you don't like, you don't want to go and design products just based on what's going to make money if it's not your style at all, or if you don't like that kind of work. But it sounds like that's not an issue, because it sounds like this is your style and like you would enjoy making it, right?
Yeah, because I've done this twice before now. I've made products that I thought would sell and haven't actually enjoyed making the products, and I don't want to do that a third time. Yeah,
that's normally a sign. Think Venn diagram, right? What's going to sell? What do you enjoy? You got to have both. You got to be that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah.
And there will be something like, it's not like what you're interested in designing stylistically is going to be fundamentally unsellable. Like you
No.
say, kind of flat style, like great, that's huge. Like there will be products that are commercially viable around that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is for kids and families, and I'm quite, I have a family and kids, so I can relate to those people that are making t-shirts for the children. I can kind of really get that.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't relate so much to the older lady doing their scrapbooking. So
okay, so don't do it. Like that's never going to work. Like if you don't enjoy it and you can't relate to your customers and get in their head and give them what they ultimately want, and you're not going to enjoy marketing to them.
With it, because I've done it for 4 years, and I do find that now I've got to do more of the marketing. Now I've understood more of the marketing what I'm supposed to be doing. I've kind of hit a wall and don't really want to do it with what I'm currently doing.
Okay, so pivot.
Just because I don't relate. So.
Yeah, I know it's easier said than done. It's easy for me to say, right? But I think fundamentally that's the answer. I would pivot, and I would try some of this new stuff. But based on a lot of the things we've talked about today, put the time in up front. Treat it as part of the product development process, right? Where you put in the time to define your audience. You think about who's going to buy this, what value it's going to bring them. It's going to be very different if you come up with this audience profile and it's like Johnny, the the hippie skateboarder who sells t-shirts out of his basement and smokes weed. That's going to be different from Sally, the mum who loves making t-shirts for her kids and the other kids at her kids' school.
Yeah,
you need to work out who you're targeting.
Yeah, I think I'd really like to help other mums with their creative businesses, and I've always thought that through other things I've thought about doing before. Okay. So that would be great if what my designs help somebody else, run a business and stay at home and look after their kids around their business, which is what I basically am doing. So
awesome. So straight away, I can see when you talk about that, that's something which naturally appeals to you. Great. Suddenly that completely changes how you position your brand, your social media content, the products you create, etc., etc., etc. But as with everything, you want to validate it. You don't want to put in months of work on like a big rebrand and everything else and only find actually it doesn't work and your hypothesis was wrong, that this is going to sell to these people. You want to kind of toe in the water and just try and start getting any kind of response or traction or sales to show it works. And in that case, your validation, your minimum viable product would be this product. So put together this product, brand it up and do all the description and stuff like that. Like, I'm a mum myself and I'm like, this is built for mums just like me. And here's all the benefits. And isn't this thing lovely and mum-like, and go buy it. Here you go. Like you position it in that way.
It's just because I haven't got that audience. Even I don't know how to. If I don't go the whole hog and build the audience, I validate it for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But you sell on various third-party platforms. You can sell it on there. You can reach some of those people on those platforms. You might surprise yourself. You might have people in your existing audience that are mums and are in your demo, and it appeals to them.
Yeah, probably have.
And then you can also do what we talked about earlier with Doris, where it's how do you reach new people, where you're going to start building one-on-one relationships with mums who are running crafty mum businesses from home or whatever it might be. Yeah. There's a massive number of them on Instagram. Find the right hashtags, find the people in those spaces and start authentically building relationships and bringing them value and connecting with them. Before you know it, you have a network of mums that you're chatting with just because you love getting to know them and actually care about them. And the sales come on the back of it. Relationships first, sales after. Or maybe it gets to 3 months and you go, that whole idea, actually, I tried it. I thought I'd love it. I don't. And all the mums are pissing me off and my hypothesis was wrong. So now I'm going to go and target bikers and I'm going to talk to Teresa.
Well, I think that's what I'm worried about. Because it just seems like every time I come on this call, I have a different idea of what I'm going to do this month. And it's annoying me.
I understand that.
I do feel... I just wonder if it's just the adrenaline kick I have of getting an idea.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know exactly how.
That brilliant idea. But
I don't know exactly how long you've done this stuff, but given that I'm a fairly young guy myself, I've done, like, before Design Cuts, it was 13 years of trying out different ideas and businesses and websites. 13 years of like trying, and each one got a little bit closer. I had some freaking random websites that I won't even tell you guys because I'm ashamed. And then each one, like my blog I ran for years teaching design, like that got closer to what I'm doing now, right? It was a step in the right direction. But by the end of that, I knew I didn't want to be a blogger forever teaching Photoshop to people. But it was all part of the journey to get where I am now. And maybe Design Cuts is a stepping stone for something else in 10 years' time. I don't know. But it's just doing quite a lot and trying all these different things that kind of incrementally move the needle.
You're not the only one that tries stuff and then leaves it and tries stuff and just leaves it. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been on a journey for years too.
Because I used to. Yeah.
Oh, I think your internet might be.
You.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah, it's a bit flaky.
if you can hear us out there, Tanya, we're getting a close up of your hand. But yeah, I think what everyone, if you can hear us, I think what everyone is trying to say is you're being hard on yourself, because literally all of us have gone and continue to go through exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So just
Right.
keep doing.
I'll just get along with it then.
Keep building stuff.
Doing.
Keep learning. And you, unlike the millions of people out there in your position who are like literally isolated and not having a clue, have all of us and a bunch of people around you to actually give advice and support you and like cheerlead for you. And the same as like Teresa this week, right? When you start posting, you're like, oh, the 7th product and direction I took after a few more months is starting to actually really show promise. We're all going to be there like, yes, like, you know, starting to hit something, and then you start to build from there.
Plus that, and the only way to ensure that nothing happens at all is to not do it.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, the sooner you start, the sooner you can figure out if it's good or not, and then you can either ditch it and do something else or keep going at it.
And ditching it's not a waste, because you know you've learnt the thing that you don't want to do.
Yeah, or you learn some skill along the way. It's hard.
My mind is literally flooding with entrepreneurial cliches right now. Right. The best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
I should print that on my wall.
That'll be an Instagram quote image. I may need to jump off in a sec, guys. As I said, I could literally talk with you all night about this stuff, but I need to wrap up work and then go on date night with the missus.
Ooh. Enjoy.
It's not going to be anything fancy.
So yeah, you need to it's all high from all these random girls from the other side of the world.
Yeah, I'm getting messages stealing your attention. But no, it was so good. I really appreciate, like, you know, all you guys are busy. You're all working on your stuff. Miranda, it's about like 4 a.m. probably for you now. Some ridiculous time. I really appreciate you all jumping on. And yeah, like, feel free to message me after or whatever. But I hope it's helpful. I only want to do this if it's like genuinely helpful for you guys. So I hope it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I was terrified there it was just going to be dead air. I tried.
Well, I've got a new name, so it's all good.